Carolina Panthers made a decision to release Jadeveon Clowney getting younger in the outside linebacker room. Today, we are here to break down the state of the room, talk about guys that likely could be your starters, who's going to make the cut, and guys that just aren't going to pan out. Let's go.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. We'll keep it short today. Please hit the subscribe button or follow us wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is all about the updated outside linebacker room. So the Carolina Panthers decide to get younger. And so now there is a decision looming and trying to figure out which one of these guys is going to be the starter. I think some folks maybe would pencil in DJ Wonnum as a starter. We're curious to see Patrick Jones, and maybe there's a chance that he's a starter. Or do we have one of the rookies, likely Nick Scorton, as a starter, or Princely Umanmielen? Always a possibility. And of course, at the back end of the roster, there's a few guys still around: Amari Barno, DJ Johnson, and even a few guys that will linger into the practice squad realm. But anyways, folks, we're here to break it down and to give you my thoughts. Of course, we'll evaluate this, give you my way too early prediction on what the room is going to look like with a little bit of information that we have so far, and then go from there. Well, farewell, my friends. We would not be in this position today talking about this. Maybe we would. Let's be real. But Jadeveon Clowney no longer with the Carolina Panthers. That's part of the reason I wanted to do this series, is the Carolina Panthers have made a decision to get younger in the outside linebacker room. We know about the money that was saved. I think some folks, including me, would have preferred to have Jadeveon Clowney here as a mentor, as someone that can kind of bring these guys along. He didn't need to be out there every single snap. You could put him in a rotation, but Panthers decided, you know what, we're going to save roughly $7 million, have $6 million go against the dead cap. They could use that to pay for the rookies, use that money to maybe go out and get a safety or a cornerback. They decided to spend the money elsewhere and get younger. We're going to find out if it works. Now, Jadeveon Clowney, we've already talked about his time here, also speaking with the Athletic and Joe Person, and sounding like, he's still got some gas in the tank, probably has a chip on his shoulder. And for what feels like, I don't know, is this the 5th or 6th year outside of Cleveland where he has bounced around from team to team to team on a 1-year contract? But wish him the best, of course. But without Jadeveon Clowney leaving, maybe I still think we'd be talking about this, like who's the starter, because there was a good chance that he was not going to be the starter anyways. But let's get right into it, folks. So we are looking at two DJs and Amari Barno. And so I was looking at the three guys that were here last year, and we're going to talk about the new additions on the next screen. And again, there's a few other guys, Thomas and Kuhn, which we're going to get into, but really these are your three primary returning players at this point. So DJ Johnson, who we know, I don't know that we would say he hasn't lived up to the hype, because I think the Panthers, and we all agree, it was an overreach when they drafted DJ Johnson. Maybe Ejiro Evero is going to figure something out this year. You got to remember, like, Ejiro Evero wanted this guy. He wanted him in his defense. That was the first draft that he was here. But the pressure is heating up, especially with the new additions that we're going to talk about. And there is a potential for Johnson or Barno. It really depends on how many backers they want to keep. May not make the cut, depending if they keep 5. Somebody out of this list that we're going to look at on the next two screens may not be here. So I think the pressure is there, but I'm not writing him off like some fans and saying, hey, this guy's absolutely not going to be a Carolina Panther. I think he does okay. and run fits and setting the edge, but that shouldn't be our measurement. We know how difficult it was to get to the quarterback, and that's what we're looking for. DJ Wonnum, probably one of the bigger bright spots out of this group. Some folks even talked about the possibility of him being cut. Luckily, he wasn't. I don't think he should be. Coming up on the second year of his 2-year contract. He is older, not that much older, though, actually closer to DJ Johnson, too, if you think about it. Battled the quad injury as well as blood clots, and that was the reason it took him so long to get back. But when he was back, we saw pretty good player, I think. And I think if he had played a full season, he probably would have gotten in that 8 to 9 sack range. When he was out there, he was effective. Took him a little bit to get used to the system. So I think hopefully a full off season of, being in control, being healthy, being in the system, getting in the weight room, just understanding everything. It feels like he should be the starter. It doesn't mean one of these other guys can't beat him out, but I do think he should be your bona fide starter going into this year. But again, crazier things have happened because we talk about contracts. You never know what the Panthers are thinking internally. They want to get these young guys pass reps. I don't know what that can mean for potentially getting DJ Wonnum out of here. I'm not saying it's a possibility or it's a guarantee, but crazier things have happened. And then lastly, Amari Barno, who unfortunately he's also was recovering from injury last year. So he took him a little bit longer. He kind of just fell into the mix. This guy's been up and down, but never really consistent. So I think, again, a guy that we'll get into the end that could potentially be up to be cut. So those are what we have now as your 3 veteran outside linebackers for the Carolina Panthers. Now let's talk about the new additions. Of course, 2 of these guys came through via the draft, another one through free agency, and this could be your trio of pass rushers over the next 2 to 3 years, the future of the Carolina Panthers. Nick Scorton, I would say out of the group of guys here, well, I guess between him and Princely Umanmielen, I think Nick Scorton is going to be someone that pushes for a starting job. Now, that's not to diminish Princely Umanmielen because based off of what we've seen, he from what he said online and the talks and the motivation, this guy's going to be highly motivated to get out there early. And again, Dave Canales wanting to get these guys snaps, get them pass reps, get them out there. That's the most valuable thing that these guys can have. So Nick Scorton, I would pencil in as possibility of being a starter. Patrick Jones II also. I think these 2 guys, and actually it could be Patrick Jones as a starter and Nick Scorton is competing with DJ Wonnum. But I think out of that mix, and we'll get into in a second, I think that's what you're going to look at. But Patrick Jones II coming over from Minnesota, decent production, not off the charts, so to speak, but I do think he's consistent, and I think there's a chance. It's funny, as you look at this, you could have 2 former Minnesota Vikings as your 2 edge pieces starting for the Carolina Panthers. We'll find out as we get into it. But I do like the addition of Patrick Jones. I think there's a chance for him to be a starter. If not, he is a really good rotational piece as well as we look at this mix. And then Princely Umanmielen, again, this guy, I think, may take a little bit longer to get in there as far as being a every down outside linebacker. But I think there's a possibility that we see him in some key passing situations, get him in there, get some reps, and see what he can do. So I think out of this group, this is your future, though. I think we would expect by year's end, it's a strong possibility that Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen are your starters. And if not, heading into next year, for sure, I think that's what Dan Morgan, Ejiro Evero, if he's even here, but I think that's what they would envision for this team. Now, we got 3 other guys on the roster. We have them floating around. Thomas Nkoun, who we know had to play a little bit last year, so he's going to be floating around. There may be a slight chance that he could beat out Barno or DJ Johnson, but he's a little bit further down the list right now, in my opinion. I think these three guys, you're really talking about practice squad. One other addition that a lot of folks have not talked about, and I mean, there hasn't been a lot of production from him, kind of fallen off a little bit, but Boogie Basham, who was brought over. And again, he's an outside linebacker. He was signed to a future contract very early in the offseason. So he kind of got swept under the rug for most people, which, like, when he didn't have a lot of production, that's what's going to happen. But you have him in the mix, and then you have the international pathway player, Mapalo Mwansa, as well. So you've got, at this point, 9 edge rushers on the roster. And so for me, I think about the Panthers carrying 5 or 6, and what is that going to look like? So as I mentioned, I think these 3 guys, and we got an extra start flag on here for those that are watching this. But I think for me, Nick Scorton in the mix, DJ Wonnum, and Patrick Jones. I think out of this group, that is going to be your 2 starters. Now, like towards the end of the year, we would hope Princely Umanmielen maybe getting in more of the rotation. But at least for now, those are your 3 guys that I have competing for a starting position. As your backups right now, and this is assuming the Panthers carry 5, it's a possibility they carry 6. But for your backups, I do have Princely Umanmielen. Right now, a slight nod to DJ Johnson. And I think just stacking up, I do think Barno, there's a possibility if we carry 6, Barno's in the mix, and that would be your 6 that you carry. Like I said, Thomas Nkoun, possibility. We go back and look. Boogie, I don't know. Maybe there's something that's ignited. Maybe Mapalo, who coming through the International Pathway Program, finds something as well. But I think if we're narrowing this down to 5 or 6, it feels like it's going to be chalk from this standpoint. And so looking at the guys that, of course, would either be cut or on the practice squad, it's everybody else that we have here. And so that is what I have for the state of the Panthers outside linebacking room heading into 2025. I think the biggest thing Panthers fans should be excited about is the fact that we have some edge rushers invested in 2 draft picks. You brought one over through free agency. It's almost going to be a 50% or more change in the room that we had last year. And as far as like guys that are getting snaps and getting reps, we just want to see some production. I think that's the biggest thing, seeing these guys get out there and have an impact. As always, folks, this is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.